I'm Miroslawa Alunowska Figueroa, and I will be presenting the paper, An Approach to Benchmark Fraud Detection Algorithms in a COVID-19 Era, which is published in the second issue of the Latin American Journal of Digital Economy and Society. This paper is a result of a team effort. The co-authors are Daniel Turner-Szymkiewicz, Juan Sebastián Cárdenas-Rodriguez, Ulf Norinder, and Edgar Lopez-Rojas. We are part of Yalax, a British fintech startup. We welcome the opportunity to present our work at the CPR 2020 conference, which is organized by the Centro LATAM Digital. And today, you are going to be learning why using synthetic data is relevant in benchmarking fraud detection algorithms. This paper focuses on financial synthetic data and the use of a reliable benchmark tool to test fraud detection algorithms to address the challenges in the fight against financial crime in the COVID-19 pandemic context. The global health crisis caused a worldwide societal shift in persuading more people to adopt digital payment platforms as their primary form of payment. Unfortunately, with these behavior changes, there also came an evolution of fraud that takes advantage of the vulnerabilities of digital payment systems. We explore the relevance of measuring the applicability of a financial crime benchmark in the presence of a growing digital financial sector in the Mexican context, which could potentially boost financial inclusion in the country. Mexico has a robust financial sector, a well-capitalized banking sector, its regulatory framework is continuously updated, and 32% of the population is unbanked or underbanked. People who are unbanked do not have access to traditional financial services such as credit cards, saving accounts, or loans. And instead, they use alternative financial services such as shark loans or pawn shop loans. People who are unbanked have some type of bank account, but also use alternative financial services. Traditionally, fraud is detected by rule-based systems. To approve a transaction, a fraud analyst writes several rules on top of another, such as an onion, and it's like trying to grasp the transactions and unfamiliar graphical locations. Thus, rule-based systems need frequent incorporation of scenarios to detect correlations between user behavior and fraud actions. Currently, most of the fine-tuning assessment of suspicious transactions still relies on compliance officers, which is absolutely time-consuming. For these reasons, compliance departments at financial institutions face the challenge of reducing the number of innocent people erroneously accused of fraud. To cope with this problem, financial institutions are exploring the application of machine learning fraud detection algorithms and data analysis technologies to develop more accurate and precise fraud detection systems. However, approaches to streamlining and automating banks' monitoring and testing processes is challenging, and there is no consensus on a benchmark. In the following slides, I will be discussing the use and generation of financial synthetic data to develop better fraud detection algorithms and the use of a reliable benchmark tool to test such algorithms. So, what is synthetic data? Synthetic data can be defined as entirely new data points generated to resemble or keep the statistical properties of the real dataset. A synthetic dataset cannot be an exact replica of the real data. For that would compromise on the privacy we aim to uphold. Benefits of using synthetic data are the conditions yet to be encountered can be simulated. It addresses privacy regulation challenges that restricts access to real datasets, and it addresses real datasets' imbalanced nature. In this slide, I'm going to start on the left-hand side, which says before a benchmark. Due to time constraints, let's simplify a transaction monitoring system as a black box model. The kernel of the black box is a classification algorithm. Here it's represented as a red shield. That classification algorithm classifies a bank transaction into fraud or non-fraud. The input to this black box is a bank transaction, and its output is a classified transaction. A bank transaction is a record of money that has moved in and out of a bank account, and some of its properties are timestamp, amount, and account number. There are many classification algorithms, such as nearest neighbor, the naive Bayes, or support vector machine. Metrics are used to evaluate the performance of fraud detection algorithms. A good performance is considered when the mistakes of a classification is minimized. That is, the number of fraudulent transactions detected is maximized, and the number of transactions mislabeled as fraud is as low as possible. Classification algorithms are trained to classify by comparing its output with the real data. That is, that it should flag a fraudulent transaction when it's a fraudulent transaction. The problem is that with real data, it is not known which transactions are fraudulent. This is known well after some time. This is when synthetic data comes in handy. It resembles the statistical properties of the real data set, but we can inject the number and type of fraud typology. That is, we can explore a particular criminal behavior. Thus, when a classification algorithm is trained with the synthetic data, it is possible to know how effective the classification algorithm is. Ideally, with an adequate benchmark to measure the performance of these controls ahead of time, financial institutions will be able to cut down on the time it takes to deploy their control and thus utilize the most appropriate control for current criminal behavior. So, what did we learn in this paper? First of all, the relevance of measuring the effectiveness of financial crime controls. What cannot be measured cannot be improved. Further work is required to define strategies given the evolution of technology and the way trustable finance will be conducted in the future. For instance, it's important to know what are the cultural, practical, structural, or political factors behind why some Mexicans seem to be hesitant to adopt technological advances needed. Secondly, there should be further work regarding how to improve current laws and regulations. It should be also considered that when taking into account the regulatory bodies themselves, they will have to use modern technologies. And some of the key areas that will drive innovation forward are increasing the quality and confidence in the use of synthetic data, for the development of benchmarking tools using synthetic data for machine learning algorithms, and building the foundations to extend the work from privacy to different aspects of trustworthiness, such as explainability and robustness for the generated data. Well, thank you very much for your time. If you would like to learn more about the topic or have any questions, please get in touch with us.